Okay, so in the previous session we discussed clearly what is the role of a tester. I told you that role of the developer is to make it, the role of the tester is to break it. Sir, what do they break, sir? They try to break each and everything possible, and they make sure that the errors are found out at the earliest level. Instead of somebody else finding out the error, it is always better. Instead of somebody spotting it as a bug after the product is released in the market, it is always better that some internal member goes out and finds it out. That's the main role of the tester. Also, it makes sure that the repute of the company is not spoiled. I should not ever spoil the company's repute by sending a product which is not 100% perfect to the market. So that's how the tester works 100%. The tester's motto is always to find out errors in an early stage and to make sure that it reaches the hands of the customer without any flaw. And yesterday we have gone through the quick structure of the test case. I wish to retouch this because yesterday we were in a hurry. So please learn that in interview, if you are asked to write a test case structure, you should be very much familiar with it and you should be able to present all these columns. Project name. What is the project that you are working on? For example, you may work on a project for a particular company, and the project could be on, say, for example, elderly device. So the company name is say X underscore elderly device is the project name. And each test case must have an ID. Without identification, the test cases cannot be told as this particular test case is pass or this particular test case is fail. So make sure that you guys understand that. So we need to give the test case with appropriate title. And then I mean the ID. So ID and title both are different. ID is like your roll number. The title is a little detail. So you need to tell very clearly that what is the test case all about. Is it for testing the login functionality? Is it for testing the functionality which is related to the camera, related to mobile phone, or what is it? What are you going to do? And which product module are you working on? Who is the author of the test case? Because not necessarily the person who authors the test case would test it. It is somebody who may write it and it is somebody who may test it. So in that case, if I have any questions, I always mention the name of the person who wrote it here, because I may go and ask him, see bro, I have not understood what you have written. Can you please explain me how does it go? So it's very important that way. And you need to mention the date of the design, the tester's name. For example, when I worked in the company, my name was S. Vasudev. Yes, Vasudev was my name, which means that name is very visible to people who have understood the entire project and the entire team, and they know that who has done that. So everybody will have a username and username there in the company, and the company username should be presented there. And revision history, it is very very important. We review the test case. When you write a test case, it is not going to be just like that given to the tester to test, but instead it will be reviewed by 2-3 people who are very professional, who are very enriched in terms of reviewing the test cases, knowledgeable in terms of reviewing the test cases, and they will make sure that the review is all meaningful. And priority. So there are test cases which are related to just login, logout, password, related to the fonts, related to the way the web page or whatever you build behaves with respect to mobile platform or with respect to your laptop. All these cases are to be prioritized. For example, if you are testing some test cases which is related to the core functionality, that is always very important. The priority is very high. If you are just checking the functionality which is not going to be of that much importance, but still it would be a feature to be tested, you can call it as low priority. So low, medium, high priority of the test cases is very very important. And description, assumption, precondition, execution step, all these are very important. Sir, why sir? Description, I need to give a one liner about what is the test case. I am going to test the login functionality of the proposed system. That's all. Assumption, what are all the assumptions that you are making? You need to say that the system is already on, the system has got this many things already installed, the test bed is already set up. These kind of assumptions, what do you assume? That should be the kind of thing that you assume, and then you get in. You assume that that's already done. Precondition, you may have some precondition like this wires have to be connected, this sensor are to be connected, this particular sensor should be connected to this particular port. All those are precondition. And execution step is very very important, where you need to start telling them very clearly, as in step by step, this is to be done, this is to be done, next this will come. Only when the previous step is successful, you come to the next step. Wait for this much time to declare that this test case is not successful. All these are to be mentioned very clearly, and the expected outcome is very important. There you need to be very concise. See, the tester has to become a developer to understand what exactly are the features that are supported by the system. So it's very, very important. You need to understand from the developer's perspective as well, so that you can know what can be the expected outcome. So the tester is expected to be more brilliant. The developer only develops, but the tester has to understand even the developer, and then he has to go in. So what I try to convey here is very simple. If they ask you in the company like, do you want to be a tester or a developer, you can have an option. But if they say that you have a role only as a tester, do not ignore it. Testing is not an inferior role. It is in fact a very good role where you can try out things and where you can really learn a lot of things. So do not be very specific about, I want to become only developer, I want to become only this, I want to become only this. During the early stages of the career, I believe that you should be really flexible. And then the result has to be specified as pass or fail. It cannot be on hold. You cannot call anything as hold. It has to be either pass or fail. Severity. Well, you have designed something that can fail the current module, that can fail the group of modules, that can fail the whole system. So if it is going to be a showstopper where it will fail the whole system, we naturally call it as a very critical bug. And if it is failing the module which is connected to it, we call it as major bug. If it is just a small bug which is related to a very small feature, we call it minor. So why do we prioritize, or why do we classify this as critical, major and minor? Very simple. If it is a critical bug, team of engineers will be assigned to that particular bug and they will work on the highest priority there. No doubt they will work on the highest priority. So to assign the work, we need to say that this is critical bug, or this is normal bug, or this is major bug. Now, what is the difference between a good test case versus bad test case? This is a very important question that I wanted to tell you, that I wanted to discuss yesterday. Good versus bad test case. Can we declare a test case as bad? Can we say that, no, you have written a very bad test case? There are no written guidelines, there are no written rule book which says that this is how it can be called as bad, or this is how it can be called as good. But there are some normal, regular guidelines that you can follow that comes through experience, and that can ensure that your test case writing skills are really better. First, you should not have any dependency between the test cases. What do you mean by that, sir? Very simple. I have test case 1, I have test case 2. Do not say that run the test case 1 for you to run the test case 2. It is like only when you eat this particular item, you can come to this item. You should not say that. You are never supposed to make dependency from one test case to another. So that's a very wrong aspect of working on it. So don't do that. And if you are not giving any proper execution steps, that's really bad. Expected output, if you are not giving properly, that's really bad. Sir, can you give an example, sir? Yes, I am going to give an example. I am going to make a very beautiful sandwich and I am asked to write the test case for it. I am going to make the vegetable sandwich. So I am going to make it very poor first, and then I will tell you how detailed it can be. How good can you make it? So I am going to take a vegetable sandwich and I am going to write the test case for it. How do you make a vegetable sandwich? Now first step, what I say take vegetables. I then say clean it and cut it into pieces. Get clean and fresh bread slices. And then keep the cut vegetables in between the bread slices. Keep the bread into the micro oven or sandwich maker for 5 minutes. Take the sandwich out, enjoy it, and enjoy the food. So this is a very poorly written test case. Though when you see it, you might think like, oh, I have got 6 steps and it's very easy to write a test case. No, this is not the way the test case has to be written. The test case has to be written in a real detailed manner. These steps are incomplete in all the aspects. The complete picture is not there at all. So how do we write a good test case, sir? Very simple. See the way I have written it here. Now get the following raw materials to make the veggie sandwich. How many breads you want? How much tomato you want? How much potatoes you want? Do you need a cucumber, carrot, butter or mayonnaise, mint, green chilies, onion? All these are the contents that are to be, or the raw materials that are to be purchased, and I need to specify the count. Sir, how is it connected to a technical test case, sir? Very simple. If I need sensors, if I need microcontrollers board, or if I need anything like this, which are peripherals which are to be connected, I need to specify them very clearly, without which the tester will never be able to understand. Please understand the point. The tester is yet another person who can do tasks as written in the paper with a little more creativity added to it. But the paper should be very clean. Now see the next step. Boil the potato. Do not overboil it. Drain and mash. So I have mentioned it very clearly. You need to boil it, but you should not overboil it. This is an input that I am giving the tester. So when you test it, you heat it to this level, without which it might not work fine, but do not overheat it. So this is very important point. Grate the carrot and cucumbers in any shape you like. So I gave him the freedom of cutting the carrot and resizing it or reshaping it in the way he wants. Slice the tomato, mostly the tomatoes are sliced in rounds. Nevertheless, it will add taste irrespective of the shape. So I have mentioned it very clearly as well. See, each and every point we are to be very careful when we are writing a test case. Remember it, it's very, very important. We cannot be lethargic about getting the test cases written. It has to be a very clear set of statements that you need to make, and it is to be definitely a detail. And next step, add the chutney. Combine the few leaves of mint, coriander, and small pieces of green chilies. Apply butter to one side of the bread. Apply chutney on the other side of bread. Add the cut vegetables over the bread with chutney and top it up with mashed potato. Add a little sauce over it. Serve it hot. Now you compare this with this. Which one is better? This might look very easy for you to read, but this is very detailed, and this is how you are supposed to write a test case. Remember, in the interview, if they give you a scenario, so make it very detailed. You have to be really detailed and put all these into this framework. This is the framework that I want you to put it in. So this is the framework that you need to assume. Then go ahead and identify the steps. Put all these steps or execution steps very clearly, and that's all it's done. Now I'm going to show you one more scenario where you can understand the way that test cases should not be written. So I have got test case 1 here. You can see that here I have got a test case 1. I have got another test case connected to it. I have got another example out here. Now you see that here test case 1 scenario 1. I am going to take the steps very simple, and see, both are first 3 steps are almost the same. You can see that here. If you take this, switch on the machine, switch on the machine. You enter the username and password, enter the username and password. Click Google Chrome on browser and launch it. Click Google Chrome browser and launch it. Now you cannot literally say that I will execute this test case first and then I will come to this. So you need to write all these 3 steps even here, though it is a repetition and this is not permitted. You should not say that execute test case 1. Please understand, execute test case 1 is not permitted. Whenever you are writing a test case, you are supposed to mention the steps frequently. Test case 1 may be removed from the repository permanently. I may find test case 1 as irrelevant. I may see that the test case 1 might not be written properly. It could have some flaws. I may see that test case 1 getting altered over a period of time. So it is very evident that one should clearly avoid creating any dependency between the test cases. This test case 2 should not be dependent on this test case 1 for a simple reason that the test case 1 might not remain in the suite forever. It might not remain in the test set at all. The test cases, totally they could revamp the test cases because of inclusions, because of deletions or whatever, and we cannot marry this test case to this test case at any cost. This is one very important point that we need to understand. Well, now having said this, I have given you a clear picture of the complete testing life cycle. I have told you how to write the test case. I also have informed you about the good test case and bad test case. Now overall, they may ask you a question by throwing a scenario or by throwing a concept to you to write the test case. For example, they may give you a mobile phone and they may ask you to identify the test case scenarios for the modules like video cam module or for FM radio module or for messaging module, or how do you install app. Any questions can be asked there, and you need to really ask them immediately for the requirements. Just ask what are all the requirements that are connected to this particular scenario, summarize them one by one, and then identify the test case scenarios. Then write one sample test case which is very detailed and then present it to the interviewer. You can take time and do all this. Do not be in a hurry. Without knowing the requirement, if you write test case, it is a disaster. Please don't do that. Having written a lot of test cases, having executed a lot of test cases, it is very important for somebody to understand that it is all about the requirements and nothing else. You need to understand the requirements clearly and then identify test scenarios and detail it then. It is always good to get your test cases reviewed and get it reviewed by the people who are really expert in it, who have done a lot of test case writing, and it should be really helpful. Overall, I have completed the software testing introduction for you. I told you how exactly to manage the situation with the software testing, test case writing, identifying the test case scenarios, good test case versus bad test case. All these have been done very clearly right now. If you have any questions, you can ask me.